start off with just an introduction from the two of you. Larry, if you want to start.
Sure.
Look like you're ready.
You get like how much time? 3 minutes? 5 minutes?
Yeah, just a couple minutes while you're running.
Okay. Larry Inman. I came to Traverse City to go to Northwestern Michigan College, fell in love with Traverse City. I went to Northern Michigan University and came down and was fortunate enough to work at Empire National Bank. We ended up getting acquired by Huntington National Bank, and I stayed there between the two banks for 28 years. And I took an early out several years ago, and I was fortunate enough to have the bank allow me to be an elected official, and we were very heavily involved in the community, and we did a lot of fundraising for the community, and we were involved in different boards and commissions and the chamber and leadership during Traverse. And there was an opening on the Board of Commissioners, and the bank allowed me to run. I did win, and this is my 22nd year on the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners. I've been appointed by 3 governors, 2 Republican and 1 Democratic governor. I think that speaks highly of my independence and my ability to work with both sides of the aisle, the Republicans and Democrats. Got appointed to the Northern Michigan University Board of Trustees by both Governor Engler and Governor Granholm, and recently appointed on the State Community Corrections Board in Lansing as chairman of the board by Governor Snyder. So I have a history on the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners of being open-minded, wanting public comment, listening to all viewpoints before I make a decision, and being accessible to the public, which I want to take down to Lansing as my style. So, when things come up locally here that are important, that you can call me and I will be accessible and return your call. I am running because I'm concerned about a number of issues that are going on in Lansing right now that need to be corrected. One is roads and the inability of the legislature to come up with immediate and long-term solutions on the funding of roads. The school equity funding issue, we're getting $1,200 less per student up here for our K through 12 school system, and I want to correct that when I want to go down to Lansing and insist that there's parity and not lay millages on our residents here for roads, for school millages, and get that money back up here that we deserve. There shouldn't be a reason why they get more money down here than we do per pupil. I also want to talk about, we have so many universities in the state of Michigan, and we need to make sure that the employers are coming back to Michigan so these students and these graduates have good paying career jobs, and so they don't go elsewhere, because we're spending the money on them for their education. The state pays half the amount to keep the universities going. The other half comes from tuition and fees. So if the state is investing heavily in education, we want our people to stay here, have good jobs, good careers, and we have to attract employers. And if there's a disruption, we want to make sure that we've got a safety net for those folks to get retrained and stay here, and continue to make Grand Traverse County their home and Michigan their home. I'm real concerned about veterans and the way the medical treatment system is right here, and not only in Northern Michigan, but in Michigan. There's a long waiting list. That's unacceptable, and the state really has to press Congress on that. We have a regional veterans office here in Traverse City that I sit on the board, and we are really working hard to make sure that we have like a 30-day turnaround for their appointment time, and we get right in. We're online with the veteran system and get their applications processed. We have a small clinic here in Traverse City in Logan's Landing, and we have worked really hard in Congress to get that expanded, and we've offered to build a veterans hospital in Traverse City. Right now, they have limited services that they can get, and they need to either be driven down to Ann Arbor, Saginaw, or Detroit to be treated at a veterans hospital. That's unacceptable. We need something up here that we can treat our veterans here and not have to drive them down there and back. We have volunteers from the Veterans Affairs area within the county that drive these veterans down if they can't get down there by themselves. So that's unacceptable. We need to change the law so community colleges can have some small degrees in like 4-year degrees in nursing, that we've got a backup here at our hospital, and a lot of communities have backups in nursings in a nursing area, and I think we should allow community colleges to have 4-year degrees in nursing. We don't want to compete against the universities, but there should be a couple areas where we should allow them to have 4-year degree programs. And there's a big big impact in our market. If you don't get your 4-year degree at a certain time at Munson, they let you go do something different. Ferris was up here, and they decided to pull back and go down to the Big Rapids, so we don't have a safety net. So we're working hard on that. And the other thing is the environment, and I'm really big on this. Keeping Lake Michigan clean and clear, our environment clean and clear for the stewards, us as stewards for the future, for the next generation and our family and our kids. I think it's really important. This pipeline they're recently talking about that is in the Great Lakes, it's going through the Straits to Canada. Really, we can't afford an accident on that. We can't afford a spill. It would destroy our whole environment, our reason for living up here. And we need to, this pipeline is 50, 60 years old, and there's no assurances that this thing will leak or something will happen on this thing. I think we got to come to a solution on this thing, and my solution is to get it out of there, find a way to reroute that to Canada, get it out of the Great Lakes system, and find another way to ship that oil and whatever resources we're sharing with Canada and get it out of the water. So those are my main issues. That's why I'm running. Those are my passionate issues. That's why I decided to run, to go down there and try to make a difference for everyone here in this room and in the county. So thank you.
That's it.
Thank
Why
you.
did you decide to run and your basic plan?
Sure. I'm Betsy Coffia. I'm running for state representative for Grand Traverse County, and I grew up here in northern Michigan. I actually grew up out in Kalkaska County. Moved into Traverse City as a young adult, worked 3 jobs to put myself through college here at our community college NMC, and then Ferris State University at our university center. So I'm very passionate about making sure that we support our young people being able to have those opportunities and expand those opportunities in our area, as I was able to. I have a professional background in journalism. I'm a former newspaper editor and reporter in northern Michigan. I started out as a reporter for a county paper, and then was promoted within the company and moved to another division over in Elk Rapids, and I was the editor of that weekly newspaper for 3 more years. And part of that job had me literally every week covering, attending county commission, school board. Sounds like we got a little feedback here. Busted, AJ. So every week, my front page story was going to be about local government. It was either a Board of Education, local municipal government, and regularly interacting, as you can imagine, with Elk Rapids being a coastal area on the Great Lakes, regularly interacting with the DNR, the DEQ, and the Army Corps of Engineers, particularly on harbor issues. So that was a really, government beat essentially was a big part of my job, as was covering the Chamber of Commerce, local businesses, the nonprofits, community groups, and really just northern Michigan, the way we do things here and our interaction with the state and at times the federal government. So that gave me a great opportunity in my early career to look carefully and understand that there are different sides to issues. People can feel very passionately, right, Gary, about various local government issues, and it's important to really take the time to understand that and then try to do a good job of presenting that to the community in a good way. So that's some of my professional experience that I'm really excited to bring to bear as your hopeful state representative. Why am I running for office? I'm running for office. I'm a big picture thinker. And when I look at what's happening at the local level all the way up to the federal level, what I have noticed, and I think a lot of voters feel the same way, that every 2 years or so, we get flooded with mailers and radio ads and TV ads, and they are promising us better roads, better funding for our kids' education, better jobs, all the things that we want. And here's the thing. I believe that the vast majority of people who run for those positions really do want those things, that their intentions are good, that they are in it because they do believe that those issues are important. But here's the thing. What happens at the state and the federal level? What are we seeing? Are we seeing a return on investment as taxpayers for the money that we pay our elected officials in Lansing and in DC to work on roads, schools, good jobs, college tuition? Or is something else happening? We all know the answer to this because as I've knocked doors all over this county, I am hearing over and over and over again, they don't seem like they're working for us. It's like they're working for somebody else and they're fighting each other instead of working for us. What is going on? So as looking at it from 30,000 feet out and saying, what is going on? Why at the state and the federal level are we not getting a return on investment as taxpayers? My conclusion is there's something else at play here that is distracting our entire political system, distracting our elected officials, and both political parties, by the way, at the state and the federal level. There is an enormous amount of special interest money that is pouring and gushing into the political process, something that's supposed to belong to everyday working people like all of us here tonight. And with Supreme Court decisions in the last couple of years, Citizens United in 2010, corporations are people, money is speech, and then McCutcheon in 2013, individuals can give as much money as they can, the biggest check they can write and play chess with state and federal politics for fun, if they so choose. What I am seeing is these groups are actually capturing and undermining something that belongs to all of us. And making it so that unless you are wealthy enough to self-fund your campaign, or unless you're connected to special interest groups who can dump huge amounts of money into your campaign, politics is out of reach. And the people who get sent to Lansing and DC and the parties are totally in the capture of those moneyed interests. And it has just gotten out of control. And I ask myself, does this look anything like what I was taught in civics, where our vote matters, the thing that we tell our children, that their vote matters, that democracy belongs to all of us? No, it doesn't look like that. And these sorts of things don't self-correct. They change when some of us decide, nope, this belongs to us. This process that both of my grandfathers fought in wars for, it belongs to all of us, not just the privileged few. So, big picture thinking, what do we do about it? Well, it starts right here in our backyard. We do what we can and we decide that we're going to take more ownership, we're going to get more involved. And so I decided I would run a campaign that models what I'm after. Total transparency, total accountability to the people of my state. That's how it ought to be, that's how I'll do it. And I have knocked thousands of doors all over this county because I believe in going to where people live and asking them, no matter where they live, in Crawn, and Acme, on Old Mission, wherever it is, what's important to you, I want to work for you. And I'm going to back it up. I'm going to walk the walk. I don't take any money from outside the state. I don't take any money from special interest groups of any kind, and I don't take party money. I don't take any of that. I am accountable to people. And we have had just a tremendous campaign where literally hundreds of people of all ages have stepped up, they've given of their time, and if they have a little money, they've given some money. We all want our roads fixed. We all want our kids to get the best possible education and for it to be properly and fairly and equitably funded. We all want our young people, kids like me, working class, to be able to afford to go to college. We all want those things. But unless we're willing to do things differently, we are not going to get different results. So I decided to run doing things differently to get different results. And this campaign, we have had nearly $70,000 given to this campaign by individuals giving $3, $5. I saw one that came in today for $37. People leaning in and saying, this belongs to us, we're going to fight for it. That's exciting to me, and I believe real change does really come from everyday, ordinary people just like us. So I'm passionate about that. I think that we have a lot more power as people than we're told, and I want us to start acting like it. So that's why I'm running, so that I can be directly accountable to the people in my district, work hard, and with people's help, begin to make some changes in the way we do government, in the lack of transparency, the lack of accountability, things like this being able to be sent out by shadow groups who don't even have to report their donors, don't have to report how they spend their money. If we want change, we have to change things. That's why I'm running.
Great. Okay, so with that, our questions are kind of broken up into a few different categories: economic, social. And we have some specific aspects of technology and things like that. But so for the next run through here, we're going to ask the question, and we'll give each of you 2 minutes to respond. We have Aaron in the back there, our timekeeper.
Can you guys see the time?
No. Do you think you can move up closer, Aaron? It'd be hard on us. We're politicians. We like to talk a lot, so make us.
Yeah.
How is that?
Oh,
Perfect.
All right.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So with that,
Can you see that?
after 2 minutes, we'll just clap them down or something. You know. There it is.
Slow clap.
Yeah. So the first question here, maybe we'll start with Betsy this time, is what do you see as one fundamental difference between you and your opponent?
Well, first of all, I'll say what I think is the same. I meant what I said at the beginning. I believe individuals like Larry and like myself genuinely do want to serve. So that's an area that I think we're very much the same. We have a different approach, though. I have committed to being solely and completely funded by individuals from Michigan. I've been able to chip in a little bit what I can, again, as kind of a working class stiff, basically. But the rest of it has just been, hard work. I was taught that's what you have to do to get anything you believe in. You get out there and you pound the pavement, you work hard. And we have been doing that. I have total and complete accountability to the people of Michigan. That's something I'm really proud of. As far as other differences, I'm really focusing on running my campaign. So it's been important to me to speak to the voters about myself and my ideas. I believe that, let's be honest, drawing a contrast a lot of times ends up just sounding like trashing the other person. And we've got enough of that. We have too much of that. That's the cheap shot. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about who I am. I'm going to talk about my ideas. And I have the utmost respect for my opponent. I have the utmost respect for anyone who steps up for this office. So that's my answer.
And Larry?
Well, after 8 debates, I think we pretty much understand each other, and we pretty much, in a lot of cases, have the same viewpoint and sort of the same answer. I started out with, I've got 22 years of experience in county government, local government, representing you, been elected 11 times, have had the trust of the community to represent them on the board of commissioners, and have gotten public input, and we've done a lot of great things for our community and supported jobs and have improved roads, and we are concerned about making the future good for everyone in Grand Traverse County. And I at the beginning of this campaign, I said, I want to keep it positive. I don't want to make any remarks about my opponent. And I want people to judge my opponent based on everything that she says and her qualifications. And I want everyone to judge me on what I say and my qualifications, and let them make the hard, let's just face it, we've had in the primary and especially in the general, we've had some excellent people come forward and want to run for this office. And I would like to just have you judge me on my experience, what I've done for the community, my passion for public service, the time I've spent, in my personal life, devoting time to public service for 22 years and my 28 years of banking experience. Hopefully you would see me as very qualified to go down there, knowing the issues, knowing local government, I've spent 22 years knocking on doors and talking with the public, 22 years of sitting in meetings, listening to the public. I think I've got, an understanding of how this thing works, and I want to do this when I go down to Lansing. I'm not going to change.
So the next question is, what's an important issue you foresee coming up in the State House? So you get elected, what's going to be an important issue coming up on the?
You just me first?
Yeah, let's start with Larry this time.
Well, first of all, I think the most important issue, I think there's a couple important issues. there's the issues of that everyone's frustrated with, and then I think there's the big picture of compromise and getting things done. I want to go down there, and I'm very serious about this. I want to go down there kicking and screaming. I don't care, I'm Republican, and I want to work with the party and the other party. I want to have an atmosphere, hopefully, that we can speak and talk and come into common sense solutions and get things done. That's the frustration that I'm hearing from the public. That's my personal frustration. That's why I'm running. I want to get things done. People see it not getting done. We got to get roads done. We got to get school equity funding fairness. We got to get jobs back in Michigan. We got to take care of our veterans, and we got to take a look at our environment and make sure it's protected. Those are the things I really care about. So, in essence, that's the issue. The other big picture is, hopefully people that get elected, I think there's 20 some open seats now, in the House of Representatives, and hopefully those people are coming down with the same viewpoint that we are, that they're they're having the same debates, and they're coming down there with the same viewpoints that we are, that the culture has got to change, that, it can't be one dividing line and we don't talk. We've got to have a change in culture down in Lansing, where no matter what party affiliation you are, you're down there to represent the people for the best of the people. Come together, work on this common solution to all these issues, get the two parties together, work together, and get things done, and come back and report that, we are actually working together to accomplish what we really need to do for you. That's what I want to do.
Betsy.
All right. Well, certainly, something that's already been being talked about in the legislature before they went into summer recess was the roads, right? They're costing the average Michigan family at least $300 additional that they don't really want to be spending and maybe can't afford to spend out of their budget because of the repairs. And I talked to a mom in East Bay Township on a Sunday morning. Her little boy was there in the door with her, and she pointed out at her car, which was an older vehicle, and she just said, I just spent, I forget how many $100 on front end alignment, and repair because of hitting a pothole. It's obviously a huge issue. It affects us not only at the local level in the family budget, but also really it's a public safety issue. And it impacts us on the macro level. When you think about companies wanting to come and invest and create good jobs in Michigan, why should they pick Michigan? Why shouldn't they pick another Midwestern state if this is the area they're looking at, when we don't take care of our infrastructure? That's going to end up costing them. So I believe it's costing us at the macro level. So roads, and here's one of my issues with the proposals right now for funding roads. They are talking about taking it out of the hides of everyday working stiffs. That's sort of the first line of defense. Raise the gas tax, maybe raise the use tax. My concern there is that in the last 2 years, this legislature has already raised the income tax burden on everyday working people, which especially affects us in a region like this, heavily service-based economy. Average family income's barely $50,000 a year. My concern is that people are already feeling the pinch of higher taxes. They have had their homestead property tax credit reduced. People on fixed incomes now are being taxed on their pensions. So we have people with less money to work with already. So my concern is to go right to that tax would be unfair. And what I would want to do instead is look at making sure that everyone's paying their fair share. Sorry, I would like to come back to roads, sure. But roads.
Yeah.
Roads, and roads. Those are the three topics we talk about.
Yeah. All roads lead to slides. So with that, ThinkTC is again about kind of reversing that brain drain here. So the question is, as candidates, you both expressed interest in retaining our young people. What are some tangible steps that state representatives can take in retaining and attracting young people? Start with Larry.
Well,
no, sorry, Betsy. Sorry,
would be Betsy.
Betsy. Sorry.
Start with Betsy. Ladies first.
Thanks, Aaron. What's that? All right. Brain drain, huge issue. Okay, so The state has been going the wrong direction in the way we fund higher education. College tuition has gone through the roof. Just since I started college, it's up, I think it's like up 60% at many of our universities, which is pricing out working class, middle class kids and families from even being able to go to college. And then because of Congress's inability to prioritize the needs of our next generation, college, student loans are like chaining young people down, keeping them from, stunting our economy, keeping them from being able to buy homes, start families, start businesses, hire people. This is a huge issue. A couple ideas I have would be, we need to do a much better job of funding our colleges and universities and invest more there, but not stop there. I've actually, Governor Snyder, bipartisan effort here. Governor Snyder has proposed making our lottery tickets, expanding them to online and recouping more revenue there and having that go straight into higher education funding. So again, the state investing more funding in colleges and universities so that the tuition costs are not continuing to skyrocket. That is one idea I am supportive of. I'm also talking to the private sector. I've spoken to some people who are civic-minded in this area and have means, and I'd like to see us to do something like the Kalamazoo Promise, where they it could be public-private, are investing money in our young people. If they stay in Michigan to go to college and university, that we pay for their tuition. So I think we really need to get creative about that and really release that burden. And then for those of us who already have student loan debt, I would want to be a very loud advocate to the federal level for student loan debt forgiveness, or at the very least bring down those student loan percentages that we're paying, the interest we're paying.
Great topic. I sat on the north, I really had a great opportunity. Governor Snyder appointed me onto, or Governor Granholm appointed me onto the Northern Michigan Board of Trustees. And it was a great experience to go back to the university that you actually graduated from. And, you learn a lot when you sit on the Board of Trustees of a university about funding, K through 12 and university funding. And what you find out is the state doesn't have that as a priority. And what we really need to do as candidates and as new people going down to Lansing is we have problems with roads, and we got to fix roads. We got to find a mechanism to fix roads, because that's our number one problem. But the fundamental problem is that the state's priority with funding through K through 12 and universities are going down, not up. And that forces tuition to go up in order to maintain the same level of classes and curriculums and those kinds of things. So what happens to all the universities? They end up, what have we seen over the last 10 years? Raising of tuitions, which is a really burden on families, student loans. One thing we did at Northern that was creative is that the foundation department within the university, we talked them into moving that money, part of that money over, and creating scholarships and grants and whatever we could do to offset the tuition increases so it was cost neutral. And that's how we were able to keep our student count, clear. What do we need to do? The governor has proposed, and I'm supportive of these regional prosperity boards. We're going to set up maybe about 7 or 8 of them around the state. And our goal is to get community leaders on these boards, attract new employers, get incentives to get them back here, do job training if we need to on employers that happen to fail, so we can replace our people here and they don't go to other states. So we got to have careers and jobs for people that come out of their universities, so they stay here in Michigan and they're challenged and they have a career that they can be proud of. And that's our responsibility in Lansing, to make sure that happens.
With that, just a heads up, and we will be pulling questions from the audience at the end too. So if you can be thinking of questions, that's good. So the next one for Larry. What should the minimum wage be in Michigan?
Good question. There was a big debate in Lansing, as you know. There was a proposal to take it to $10, and then I think they settled at 8. I don't know what it was, quarter, something like that, 8 something. I don't know the exact number. But I understand both sides of the issue. On the business side, the owners are saying, you're raising my costs, And so I can't hire as many people. I can't invest in, and expand the business because I have more costs for employees. Well, my side is, I'd like to see, a higher wage scale. I mean, you look at $8 an hour. I mean, how can you afford a house, a car, buy food, take care of insurance? We really need to have a standard that is much higher. I know there was a proposal for $10 a minimum wage. So we really need to look at that at the legislative level and say, let's try to be fair to people that come in Michigan. And we understand those are low-level entry jobs, and a lot of people end up on those low entry jobs because they can't find good jobs, and they're working 2 or 3 jobs, and that's what they're making. So we've got to rethink this whole thing down there in Lansing. We've got to promote new jobs, bring employers in here, so we don't have this minimum wage problem. People can go to new employers and make good wages, have good careers, and be able to pay for homes, cars, education, and for kids. And for the ones that are unfortunate, that are in those environments, I think we should be paying them a little bit more. So.
Betsy.
It's a great question. What should the minimum wage be? Well, I know that in all 50 states, working minimum wage, you would have to work, I believe it's a minimum of 70 hours a week just to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. And some people say, well, why do you need a 2-bedroom apartment? Aren't just kids, still in high school working minimum wage jobs? The reality is that I think the median age is in your mid-20s. It's a lot of parents of young children. It's a lot of young people. In our region, we have a huge service-based economy where those are the jobs. And so we have a lot of people who are not high school students who are actually making very, very low wages. And has anybody had to look for a house to rent or an apartment to rent in the city where the jobs are around here? It's crazy. It's astronomically expensive, and it's going up, of course, because as the economy comes back to some extent and our property values are going back up, the pressure is there to build, luxury apartments and very high-end stuff, which is pricing a lot of people right out of the city. So I know that what we're paying people now for minimum wage isn't nearly enough. I also know, and I have a concern, I talked to Jim Abfelter from Spaghetti Jim's up on South Airport, and he starts his employees at like $9 an hour, and then he gives them like a little raise after the first month. He's a great employer. But I said, how do you do that? And he said, well, I don't get myself a paycheck. Well, that's not working either. We can't do that to our small business owners. So I think this is a huge issue, and what I would really want to do is essentially pull together employers, employees, legislators, and really come up with what is a fair wage and how can the state government maybe kick in and help employers with some incentives to hire people in at a reasonable wage.
All right, so the next question is for Betsy here first. What are your thoughts on the right to work legislation? Michigan history is amazing. We have such an incredible tradition in this state, and this state is the birthplace of organized labor. It's where people many of whom have since passed away, fought, and some of them actually died for workers' right to collectively bargain, to pool together against what were often very exploitive, big business that was looking to make as much money as possible while squeezing what they could out of their workers, even children. So Michigan is the birthplace of labor. We have the labor movement to thank for actually having a minimum wage, such as it is, having reasonable work hours, not having children working in sweatshops. These are things that labor accomplished for us. And as somebody who's kind of in the generation where we're looking at maybe a lower standard of living than our parents, and we're seeing a lot of companies, frankly, exploiting workers again. I think that this is the wrong time to be trying to take away workers' right and ability to pool together their resources and fight for fair working conditions, protection from sexism in the workplace, sexual harassment, just basic protections. So I opposed that.
There's a fallacy that right to work protects people from having to join the union. That's not true. They were never forced to join the union. It was simply that they were having to, there was an amount taken out to pay for the person who was going to bargain on their behalf, whether they were a member of the union or not.
Sure.
So I oppose right to work. I will vote to repeal right to work. Michigan is the birthplace of labor. We have a proud tradition. We need to continue it.
Larry?
Well, you know, true confessions come out during debates. And, you know, I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and we moved to Trenton, Michigan. And everything was a Democrat, everything was union down there, and that was the environment I knew. My mother worked for Ford Motor Company. My dad worked for Chrysler Corporation. And that was the environment, and both of them made great wages and good benefits. And we were able to survive as a family. And so, you know, I take those values that I grew up with. And when I sat on the Board of Commissioners, we have 13 bargaining units here in Grand Traverse County that we work with. And we have bargained in good faith. We have a great relationship with them. Me as a county commissioner for 22 years on the commissioners, we treat them with respect. We bargain fairly. And it has, this right to work thing has not affected one thing at our local unions. I mean, we are getting along, we are working together, we're putting together, all our contracts are up right now and working together. There doesn't appear to be, you know, tremendous conflict with what we need to do with our contracts. So, you know, right to work was, like she indicated, was there with the promise of, you know, it should attract new employers to Michigan. That's to be seen. The only, and I don't have an opinion right or wrong on right to work. The only thing I want to view is that the process I wish would have been differently. You know, any topic of that kind of a nature should have been publicly announced and had a public debate, and they should have held hearings, and there should have been a viewpoint from both sides, and then a vote rather than just, you know, coming out and creating this decision and then going home, you know, for break. So I want to see the process different down in Lansing.
So with the next question is, you know, Michigan is one of the few states that doesn't allow local cities, local municipalities to levy their own tax. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on that, and if that should change.
I don't understand.
So, for instance, the city of Traverse City cannot offer a sales tax
Oh, a sales tax.
on any goods within the city.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And that would be a key difference from other states. So Chicago has a sales tax, for instance, that they help levy to pay for city infrastructure. So you Larry,
Me?
yeah.
Yes.
Well, number one, I think we're overtaxed. Period. I guess I would not be in favor of allowing any additional municipalities to move forward with any additional taxes towards individuals for any kind of purpose. You know, I think they should be living within the means of their budget that they're collecting from their property taxes and, you know, whatever other fees they're collecting from. When I go down to Lansing, I'm certainly not going to vote for any new increases in taxes that will be assessed to people by villages and cities and county governments. I think we should be living within our means, and we've done so here in Grand Traverse County. When I first got on the Board of Commissioners, we didn't have very much in a fund balance at all, and we have worked towards you know, a reserve, plus we've not asked a penny for increased taxes from the voting public for 22 years that I've been on the board, and we've done a lot of great things here in our community without asking for more money. We should live within our means and fiscally be responsible, fiscally be conservative how we treat our money, and get the biggest impact for our tax dollars. I'm not interested in more taxes. And I'll be 45 minutes early on that, or 45 seconds earlier on that.
Yeah, if you just want to, for the sake of time, if you just want to say like a yield the remaining of my time or something, so that I don't cut you off. But if
No,
you
that's
just
okay.
keep going, I'll just keep it going.
No, I'll just, you know, just reset it.
I'm going to use up a little bit of my time just for a clarification. Larry, you and I have been in a couple of debates recently, or discussions where you've proposed local gas tax. and allowing, I remember at the Fife Lake event, you specifically proposed allowing local counties to be able to tax a few cents, and you specifically pointed out tourism. So
I don't think it's addressed that.
As well as in the Record Eagle, they did quote you as saying you felt like you needed to raise tax. So just to clarify that I'm confused because I've heard a couple different things there. But so to the question, my view is there are some things we could do in terms of allowing local communities to recoup some money, and particularly in an area like this, which we have people literally coming from all over not only the state but the country and even the world to visit Pure Michigan, which is us. And I am interested in potentially freeing up our community to have a hotel tax to recoup some money from those visitors to then be specifically dedicated to local projects. One of the frustrating things about the way Lansing does things is they have this, they have money that we pay that goes up to Lansing, and then it doesn't seem to make its way back down to the local level. So this would be a way to really empower us at the local level to recoup some of the costs of, the tourism industry to our area. It's a boon, but it also, costs money to pave our roads and keep our streets clean and have public safety when doesn't our town triple in size in the summer, right? So to be able to possibly recoup some of those costs through something like a hotel tax. So that would be a first thought of mine.
Yeah, we'll give Larry 30 seconds to respond to that question.
Yeah, and I guess the format was not really intended to have her and I be debating back and forth, just to answer questions, but I'd be happy to clarify that comment that was made in a previous meeting, is that, there were questions about what would be the alternatives that would be possible out there to improve our roads. And I said, one, we should be looking at our general fund at the state of Michigan to make sure that there's no fat and fluff in the state funding, and we're prioritizing our funding in Lansing. And number one would be roads and education. But if there are any additional other funds, they should be going towards these kind of road situations, so we don't have to be overtaxed or look at tax increases. The other question part of it was is that what other possibilities are. There is possibly raising the tax on the gas tax, or having a local 1 cent or 2 cent local tax where it would stay here locally, because we have high tourism, okay? So other people from Southeast Michigan, Chicago, and everything coming up here using our roads and our trucks, if they buy fuel and we have a local 1 or 2 cent gas tax, that money would stay here. It wouldn't go to Lansing. We can improve all of our roads because people are coming up here using our roads and tearing our roads up, and we don't have the money to fix them. So can we charge those folks 1 or 2 cents, even though some of us will be paying more? And I said, that's not a bad idea. It's a good idea to float out there. I would not want to vote for that. I would want that as a ballot issue. So if on any tax increases like the 911 that we've got going on here in Grand Traverse County, any increases in taxes, it should go to the ballot and the public should vote on it, and it's the will of the people. And that was my intent of that comment. So.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yep. So the next question is going to start with Betsy. What are some programs that the state can focus on to develop the K-12 education system?
Wait, I'm sorry. Could you?
So what are some programs that should be focused on to develop K-12 in Michigan?
Some programs that are in the education system at this time, or?
Yeah. So the question, source of line, is what are some programs that should be focused on? Sure.
Well, certainly foreign language development. We are a global culture, Chinese, offering as many opportunities for our kids, especially kids in rural areas. And this goes back to that funding equity issue and the fact that we're underfunding our local kids based on their zip code. You have to properly invest, but we need to be making sure that our kids have the opportunity to learn relevant foreign languages at as early age as possible. So that's one. I'm really supportive of really focusing more on skilled trades, bringing back some of the shop classes and the various things that we have sort of fallen out of style or out of favor in K-12, but I really think for our region, we have a lot of young people who maybe college isn't their thing, but if they can learn that skilled trade, they can fill a lot of the jobs, but that some of the local manufacturers and companies are saying, folks are retiring, they're aging out of that job, and we could really use some skilled labor. So that would be another area. I'm a big proponent of giving local public schools the opportunity to offer almost like magnet programs. I worked as a teaching assistant while I was putting myself through college at TCAPS Montessori, and Montessori always had a waiting list. Parents looking for a different approach. Kids are different, they need different styles. So really empowering our local schools to offer various types of education to fit kids' needs. But again, that goes back to, we show what we value by where we invest. If we say we value our children, we darn sure need to change course in how Lansing has been treating our kids, which is underfunding our kids' education and scooping money out of the K-12 school aid fund for purposes that have nothing to do with K-12 education. So you got to fund it properly to be able to hire teachers, to be able to fix your buildings, to be able to really give our kids the world-class education they deserve. So those are some of my thoughts.
Okay. This exact question was posed to the governor when he came up to Traverse City a week ago. And I think he pointed out a number of things that Betsy had pointed out in terms of the needs of the K through 12 system. Certainly it's the school equity funding, so they have the money and resources to give a good education to students. One of the challenges that you have when you sit on a board like Michigan University, these graduates come out of high school and they can't make the grade when they go to a university because they don't have the writing skills, they don't have the reading skills, they don't have the learning skills that they should really have. And so universities have to set up these special programs to get them up to speed so they start taking university level classes. So, I'll tell you, it's a real tough decision and issue in our public school systems. I'm in favor of local control and having every local system try to identify the areas and the needs in their particular area in their school system and work on those needs and identify them and work on them. I was knocking on doors the other day and the lady came up to me and she says, you have to work on deficit. These children that go to school, some of them have deficit disorders and they could be multiple in nature, and not everybody can comprehend and learn at the same pace. And the teachers have to know that. They have to be trained to recognize that and work within the confines of these students that have all these different multiple issues that are going on, whether it be physical or mental or whatever. And I think the local school boards and the local teachers need to work together to identify how best to educate our people and to identify issues and programs and get them into those things so they're successful when they graduate and they can go to a university and be successful. So it's all about local control and identifying it and setting it up.
And the next question will be starting with you, Larry, again. And this is a question that comes up often within the ThinkTC membership, but it's affordable housing.
Yes.
It can be tough to find, especially in city centers where younger people want to
Exactly.
be. Is there anything the state can do to improve that situation?
Yes, I think there is, and I think the whole issue is, when you get out of high school or when you graduate from university, you've got like Betsy said, you got student debt. When I graduated, I didn't have a penny in my pocket. I mean, I had to borrow money to, for first month's rent, that's just a big issue, and I don't have all the answers to this question. The state has certain legislative responsibilities to the public. And I think what they need to do is they need to form partnerships with the local units of government, come up with some funding to help with affordable housing like we got going on at Woodmere, the depot site. It's a shame that people have to drive not away from metropolitan areas like the core of Traverse City to go to the outlying areas and drive 30 to 50 miles to find affordable housing, and then drive all the way back and then bring the kid, the schools and shopping and everything else, and that they can't be the core part of Traverse City, and the housing is overly expensive. in the core of Traverse City. And what we need to do as a community is try to attract developers that are willing to come in and have some incentive, financial incentives, maybe from the state or whatever, to do affordable housing, and for seniors as well. You know, the Commons property, you know, we're doing affordable housing for seniors. And that's a key example that Grand Traverse County partnered with the state to buy that property and to develop it for affordable senior housing. And I would hope that we would continue to do that and be focused that everyone can afford a $200,000 or $300,000 home.
When you're ready.
Sure. All right. Yeah, this is a huge issue, especially for sort of young professionals. It is an issue I'm hearing. I was up in a mobile home park in Traverse City. I think it might have been up in Garfield Township, but very close to the city, and spoke to a senior who just said, I can do the math. You know, my rent is going up every year as well as all of my expenses. And, you know, this lady had lived here her whole life, and she said, I'm going to be literally priced out of my own home in my own community. And, you know, that's something you don't forget. That's a conversation you don't forget. For myself, we experienced looking for reasonably priced workforce housing in this area, and it is quite a struggle. I bet just about everybody in this room has had that recent experience. So, couple of the thoughts that I have. I am part of a group called Project for Civic Engagement. It is a nonpartisan citizen local group. I got to help start that, and this is a front burner issue for us. And I think using that word is really important, and having that attitude. This is front burner. It is affecting our community. It is affecting a lot of people, young people, elders, low-income folks. And some of the ideas that we have come up with and actually have recorded and are going to present to local government bodies, because they are meeting and talking about this, but they're not really including the community and the people who are actually affected. So I think first you bring everyone to the table. But we're talking about working, you know, local zoning needs to be perhaps looked at, so you have more flexibility for mother-in-law apartments, and using what is now single-family housing. Perhaps we have some very large buildings that could be used in that manner. Definitely incentives at the state level. Developers need to make a profit. They do. And so the state needs to come in and prioritize our people, our workforce, and give good incentives without a bunch of red tape, so that developers can actually afford to have mixed income housing here in city centers for young people and for everyone in the community.
And Betsy, the next question will start in you. This is sourced from the community. Should women have to buy additional health insurance if they want abortion coverage? Should they?
No. A woman or girl should not be penalized based on gender. And she certainly shouldn't have to plan for the possibility of a sexual assault that could result in her needing to make that choice. That is highly inappropriate. That is something that sort of business as usual in Lansing has produced for us in this state at this time, just in the last legislative session. Instead of working on roads and schools and jobs, they are focusing on this in this strange hyper-vigilant way on things that frankly are none of their business. I grew up in a home that's very conservative, and I was taught there are certain places that big government doesn't belong. It doesn't belong in the most personal issues of our lives. It doesn't belong in our personal lives. Ladies, this is a personal thing, isn't it? It's a health decision. It is between us and our doctors, and certainly penalizing us and making us pay extra for the privilege of being female is absolutely ridiculous.
Wow.
I don't have strong feelings about that one at all.
Well, I come from a different viewpoint, and again, it's back to my my religious background as being a Catholic. I am obviously I'm a pro-life candidate. You should know that right out, tonight. And I believe in the sanctity of life, and when life starts and when life ends. And it just crushes me that we lose these babies. And I prefer that adoption be the option. And I'll tell you what, if you look at all the people in this world that were adopted and gone to families, and how great their lives have turned out and how they have impacted other people's lives. Even, movie stars, singers, people that you admire, sports figures, your next door neighbor. I think the sanctity of life is so important that there are options available. And I would, it's just my belief and my feeling that we should not be funding abortion, and we should hopefully have less and less abortions and fight to save those babies and have them have an opportunity for a good life and to be with a family that would love them. So that is my personal belief.
And with that, Larry, we're going to continue with the social issues.
Yes.
So,
Social issues.
yeah. So the next question is, what are your thoughts on same-sex marriage in the state of Michigan?
Wow, we're getting into some good stuff.
Boom, boom.
Yeah, right back together again. Okay, number one, because of my religious beliefs, I believe marriage, it should be between a man and a woman, okay? The definition of a marriage. However, I have absolutely no problem in people that have other feelings and other lifestyles, two men or two women or people from sexual orientations want to live together, love each other. I think we should respect that. I think they should be left alone. I think they should be not discriminated against, either in their personal lives or in their employment situation or any other situation they find themselves in. We should leave them alone. We should protect them from discrimination. I know a lot of people personally that have alternate lifestyles, and they are good friends of mine, and it doesn't really matter what they do in their lives. They are great, nice people. I come at it from two perspectives. I got the fundamental marriage and raising a family and having children, to the point of if two people want to get together and live out their lives, I think that's fine. Leave them alone, respect them, and don't discriminate against them.
Betsy.
Marriage is a legal contract in our country. And with that legal contract comes certain rights. The right to visit your loved one in the hospital, the right to have shared custody of children, the right for property. If one of them passes away, it immediately goes to the other without, any sort of question. I support people being able to marry the person they love. And I think that should be a legal right. I think Michigan is way behind the curve. This is another one where instead of focusing on fixing our roads, funding our kids' education, bringing good jobs to Michigan, we have a status quo in Lansing that is perseverating on issues that, again, are really not their business. People should be able to marry who they love, and it should be legal, and I would vote to support that. So there you have it.
Next one, we'll start with Betsy, and we're moving on to social now. The next one is
They gotta be getting easier.
right. They're all easy gimmies.
We've hit the two hard ones, so we'll move on to the easier ones.
Actually, I thought those were very easy.
So recently there was, I think in the last couple years here, there was a resolution introduced in the Michigan House that led to Michigan being named one of the 6 federal unmanned aerial test sites. So basically leading to the drones. Yeah. And actually Wayne Schmidt was one of the people that introduced that legislation, and now NMC is one of the top drone training programs in the country. What would be a similar opportunity you might see that Michigan could kind of take the lead on and kind of spur some more technological growth in the state?
Sure. And okay.
Yeah.
Michigan has an incredible heritage of manufacturing might and skill, and we have so many workers in this state, and really a lot of infrastructure. I mean, I grew up out in Kalkaska County, and when the big 3, kind of tanked, So many companies that were providing them parts and various components for the auto industry lost their jobs. Whole towns were just kind of decimated